Hi, I'm Debra Stangl, founder of Sedona Soul Adventures. On my podcast, Soul Sync, the alchemy of life and love, where I give you the secrets, the alchemy, the magic of how you can have the life and relationship of your dreams. Coming to you again from incredibly beautiful Sedona, Arizona. And I'm so happy you're here with me. So I'm shifting into my new podcast territory with this new show, and it's so interesting. When I was thinking about what I wanted to talk with you about today, I started by looking up the definition of the word alchemy, and I loved this. A seemingly magical process of creation or transformation. And I thought, oh my goddess, that's just exactly what I'm always talking about and thinking about, and exactly what I want to have this podcast be about. Isn't that perfect? And then I thought, what can I talk about today that's really going to help you, like right away, right now, this instant? So I'm talking to you today about you get what you are. Now, a lot of people talk about the law of attraction, and usually when I bring that up, people roll their eyes and they say, Debra, that doesn't work for me. I tried it. I told the universe I want $1 million and I want to find Mr. Right. And all that happened is I'm more in debt and I met Mr. Right now. Well, that's probably because the law of attraction wasn't properly explained to you. And really, the law that really works is the law of resonance, which is you get what you are. If you want to get what you want, you have to be what you want. Now, most people are saying, I'll be happy when I have enough money or when Mr. Right shows up and takes me away from all this. That's not really how it works. I talk about this a lot in my book, The Journey to Happy, how embracing the concept that nothing is wrong. And what I talk about is that what Einstein proved and what quantum physics continues to show is that everything is energy. Even your body, which feels so solid and strong and so real, is just a bunch of particles running around in space. So, why is that important? Because that means our reality is much more changeable, much more malleable than we think it is. So, for example, back before I came to Sedona over 25 years ago, I was over $50,000 in debt. And it was actually my former husband's debt, but I was responsible for it because we were married. And I had had that debt for over 5 years, and I couldn't seem to get out from underneath it. But within 2 weeks of coming to Sedona for the first time, I discovered how to come into vibrational alignment with abundance. And $50,000 fell out of the sky within hours. I tell that whole story in my book. Now, when you are in vibrational alignment with what you want, it comes to you and it comes fast. That's the law of resonance. It's like the law of gravity. It's not just a good idea, it's the law. So, if you want abundance, that's a very high vibration, and you need to figure out how to match that vibration. If you're telling yourself, I don't have enough money, I don't have enough money, and you're frustrated, guess what? You're not going to have enough money. Frustration is a very low vibration, and you've got to figure out how to come out of that vibration and come into the vibration of excited expectation. The same thing goes on in every single area of your life. I struggled with my weight my entire life. I started dance at the age of 3, and my body was constantly criticized because I don't have the tall, thin body of a ballerina. So eventually, with all that constant criticism, I started hating my body and having thoughts all the time of, I'm fat, I'm fat. So guess what? I got fat. I went on every diet in the world and I would be really good for a while and I would lose weight. But then the minute I started eating real food again, I would gain it all back and more because I was still in the energy of I'm fat. That's a very low vibration. And it wasn't until I went into the energy of I love my body that I suddenly released over 40 pounds in 5 weeks without diet or exercise by eating whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted it. And I've kept that up for over 10 years now. Now, again, I tell the whole story of that in my book. And over these next weeks, we'll talk more about all of that stuff. The point I'm trying to get to you today is that you get what you are. If you stay in the vibration of happy, you'll be happy. If you stay in the vibration of feeling abundant and grateful, abundance will come in like crazy. So, of course, the big question is, how the heck do you do that? Well, I believe, and I've been working with all this stuff for over 40 years now, and I believe this, that pretty much everybody has core wounds, traumas, fears, blocks, limiting beliefs, what I affectionately call gunk. And that unless and until you discover and release and heal the gunk in your life, that you simply can't have the life of your dreams or the relationship of your dreams. It's just not possible because the gunk keeps coming up for healing. Your soul is bringing it up over and over again to be healed. But most people don't understand that. They just think problems keep coming up over and over again. But it's not really that. It's the gunk coming up for healing. Now, I was a divorce attorney for 20 years. And during that time, I had a bunch of people I did 3 divorces for. And what I discovered was that they were actually marrying the same person over and over again. They just had a different name. They were not getting the lessons of the relationship. When the gunk came up to be healed, and usually it was gunk like, I'm not lovable, I'm not good enough, instead of understanding that this was their soul bringing up these wounds to be healed, they just went into, I don't like you. You don't love me the right way. I'm leaving. When what they really needed to do was heal their core wound of, I'm not lovable. So then we're on to the next big question. How the heck do you do that? Well, as I said earlier, the first part is the discovery. And that's where we're going to get into patterns. So I'm going to give you a process you can do. It's one of the 9 processes that are in my book that I call Discover the Patterns You Took On as a Child that are affecting you to this day. So here's what you do. Look at these topics and think about, and then write down, how did your parents think about these things? And how did it show up in their lives? Now, if your parents weren't your primary caregivers, then who had the biggest effect on you as you were growing up? For most people, it's their parents, but for some, it's grandparents or some even a teacher. And remember, this isn't about judgment. Nothing is wrong with your parents. It's just looking at this very unemotionally and looking at how did your parents think about life and work and money. So here they all are, life and work and money, your body, your food and health, relationships and spirituality and the state of the world. I did this process over 30 years ago, and it was a shocker the first time I did it. And what I found in over 40 years of working with people is that most people have never looked at this. When I did this, I thought, oh, I'm so different from my parents. I'm nothing like them. But then I did the process and I realized everything, I mean, everything in my life was manifesting in the same way as my parents. My parents believe life is hard. And back then, this is 30 years ago, I believed life is hard. My parents believed you have to work really hard and do things you don't like to make money. Well, with my work, I was working really hard doing work I hated as a divorce attorney. On money, my parents made a lot of money and they spent a lot of money. And I have vivid memories of my mother sitting at the dining room table, writing checks to pay bills and saying at the end of the month, there's not enough. It totally freaked me out when I did this process and realized I was sitting at my dining room table, writing out checks to pay bills and saying there's not enough. In relationships, my parents, it was marriage is hard and father is unavailable. And in looking at my own life, I had already been divorced by that time. So there's the marriage is hard. But I was realizing my first boyfriend was away at college. My first husband was in law school, so gone studying all the time. Then, after the relationship I was in when I did this process, I was in relationship with an American who was living in Tokyo. So talk about unavailable. He was in another country. When I looked at that, I was like, oh man, I am totally playing out my parents' life, and I've got to do something to change that around. So, again, the question, how the heck do you do that? Well, at that time, I stopped writing checks at my dining room table and I broke up with the guy in Tokyo. So, what you can do for yourself right now is what I want you to do with this very valuable process, because I think it will shock you and I think it will help you, because this is the first step in finding and releasing your gunk. So take the time to do the process. I think you'll be amazed. And of course, finding and releasing your gunk is exactly what we do at Sedona Soul Adventures in our retreat intensive. We find it, we release it, and we heal it. And then the next part of the retreat is the really fun part, where we're bringing you into connection on all the levels: physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And when you're operating in connection, you are truly living the life of your dreams. Now, I'll tell you more about my story in the coming weeks and how it actually took me 3 years of coming to Sedona to achieve all this. And now we do it for people at Sedona Soul Adventures in 3 days. That's the joke at the office. My soul adventure took 3 years. Everybody else does it in 3 or 4 days. But that's what it took. And the wonderful thing is that I was able to figure out how to condense that 3 years into 3 days for you. So if you'd like to hear more about that and about my life, subscribe to my channel so you'll get notifications every time we post. And if you liked this and thought it was helpful, please like it. That helps me plan future shows for you. And also share it with a friend. If you'd like more information on our retreats, go to SedonaSoulAdventures.com or click the link and you can speak with one of our soul guides. You can have the life or relationship of your dreams. I know it.